everybody? This is your man, Young Squalla, and this is another Always Everything with Squalla podcast episode. And today I have a special guest with me today. If you can introduce yourself for me, please.
I'm Ty.
You're Ty. And Ty, where can the people find you?
I am on Instagram at DIYTYE.
Cool, cool. So we are here today to talk about parents that have children with disabilities. If you want to make like an opening statement, like let's talk about it.
Big thing that is something that happens all the time. That everybody out here, there's a lot of people out here who got kids with disabilities. We see it all the time in schools, just walking around, driving around. But a lot of people don't have the conversation enough of the different adversities that parents who have children with disabilities tend to face, whether it's economically, financially, mentally, just the different adversities as a whole that parents that have children with disabilities face.
Right. So let's talk about some of those difficulties that the parents may face, the struggles the parents may face. So you yourself, you are a single mother, right?
I am.
So let's talk about the struggles. How do you juggle? How do you handle it?
I cry sometimes at night, but then, during the day, you have no choice but to handle everything in life as it comes. You can try to have a plan, but there's so many times that that plan does not go according to plan, and then you got to wing it. You can have a plan A, B, and C and find yourself somehow at Z by the time it's all said and done.
All right, let's talk about the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning of it. When you're in the hospital, you're having your baby, and the doctor tells you that your baby may have a disability or that this stuff may happen. How do you handle that? How did that make you feel at the time?
Honestly, it's one of those situations that you're kind of shocked. You find yourself going through a ton of emotions. And the biggest thing that I personally found that I said to myself was, I thought about all the what ifs except for that one. Because during my entire pregnancy, I was told healthy baby, healthy baby, healthy baby. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's something wrong. There's a problem. And you find yourself at a point where it's just like, well, I didn't think about this. you know, what do I do now? And for me, I had a situation where I had to stop working. And I've come across a lot of parents who some are fortunate enough to have a two-parent home for their children. So there's a little bit more balance. It makes some things a little bit easier to do and handle. But then you've got a lot of parents that are single parents. And for some, they have other children. So you've got to not only then take care of those other children, but then you also got to make sure that you take care of your child that has that disability, that needs that extra care, that needs that extra love. And you don't love your other children any less, but it's a lot of extra work. And
Right.
you've got to figure out work. You've got to figure out how to take care and provide for your children while still handling all the different things that your child with that disability has to go through. The system itself is not set up in the easiest way to receive assistance. Like I said earlier, me personally, when I found out my child had a disability, I actually was told I can't go to work. And being a single mom, my next thing is, well, how the heck do I take care of my kid?
Right.
And I had to figure different things out. But at that point, you try to scramble to do all kinds of things. You try TANF, you try food stamps, you try WIC. But reality is, with today's society, those things aren't enough to actually survive off of and still take care of your child, handle all your average everyday bills. It's not enough. I've found there's a lot of other parents that I've spoken to who have faced different situations. All my son's doctors, they all told me that my son qualified for disability. I applied for disability for him and they denied it. I
Wow.
then appealed it. They denied the appeal. And so then I had to go for a hearing.
Is this the
And
state of
they,
Maryland? This the state of Maryland?
DC,
Oh man, that makes it even worse. DC supposed to have all the fucking programs and shit.
right, right. And so I'm sitting there struggling. And I'm just like, what do I do? And so I'm waiting for this hearing to happen. It took over a year for me to finally get SSI for my son. And it was a struggle. And even that, in all reality, is not enough. So I found myself in a position of having to figure things out in a completely different way to be able to make money while still trying to learn all these other programs and find these other programs. And you've got programs in all kinds of different places, and you can call one place and they are just like, well, we can't help you with that. Maybe try this place, or this place. And then they give you this long list of places,
Now you
and
doing
then those
runs
people
around.
can't help. Yeah, and you're finding yourself all over the place, extremely stressful, while still trying to be as strong as you can for your child. Um, I've found a lot of parents, including myself, of course, the mental toll that it takes on your body, the physical toll that it takes on your body as a parent. You know, there's a lot, especially when your child has a lot of doctor's appointments. And you find that other parents whose children don't have disabilities, those parents, they tend to sometimes, doesn't take away from them being great parents, they sometimes tend to try to compare their lives with yours. And it's just like, you find yourself kind of categorized in this group where it's just like, yes, we're all parents, but I'm in a subcategory over here because my child has these extra different things
All right.
that, you know, your child doesn't have to worry about, that you as a parent don't have to worry about your child going through. You know, my son personally, he was born with an extremely rare tumor. It's called a sacrococcygeal teratoma. And even though it was removed at birth, it left and created so many different health issues for him. So he has to be cathetered every 2 hours. He has to use a peristine, which is basically an anal irrigation system that fills up the colon and flushes out the bowels because he can't urinate on his own. He can't have bowel movements on his own. He wears braces on both of his legs and feet to help him walk because his entire left side was affected by this tumor. He actually he's being fitted for a walker now. You know, he's got doctor's appointments every week, at minimum, usually about 3 days out of the week. He goes to physical therapy, he goes to aquatic therapy. You know, he's got all these specialists that he goes to see. And he also deals with something called cyclic vomiting syndrome, which is a situation where ultimately any sort of change within the body emotionally, whether he gets excited, he gets sad, he gets angry, any of these shifts in emotions can cause him to start going into this vomiting phase. And he has to just go through it. There's nothing that I can do about it. Now, my son's 4. So it's just like, how do you keep a child at that age
Right.
stable and not with all these different emotions? Kids at that age are nothing but a ball of different emotions. 1 minute they're happy, the next minute they're angry, the next minute they're crying. It's just like, what's happening here?
Right. So let's take it back. You said what is the disability called again?
For him, he just has a conglomeration of disabilities.
No, you said a word. You said a word. What's the word
Which one? The cyclic vomiting syndrome?
before that?
No, before that. He's got a neurogenic bowel and bladder
Before that.
before that. The tumor that he had,
Yeah.
the sacrococcygeal teratoma.
Okay. But for like, yeah. So I need you to break down what exactly that means.
It is basically a rare tumor that grew from the spine, the base of the spine of his back. And it's a tumor that actually, when I spoke to the doctors about it, they said that it can come in so many different forms. So my son's was made up of all brain matter. The doctors have said that they have seen tumors, the same type of tumor made up of teeth, made up of bone
What the
fragments.
hell?
Yeah, it's crazy. But they
Man,
said that they usually see it only in female children. It is even more rare to see it in a male child.
that's crazy.
And a lot of children don't survive.
So what do you know what initially causes this tumor, or is it just like just a regular birth thing?
It's so rare that there's not a lot of research on it. You know, there are, I've heard some people say that it can come from stress. I've heard different people say that, it's just something that happens. Like, I've heard different people's opinions on it, their feelings on it. However, when you actually research it, there's not much research out there on it. It's
Right.
just that rare. The hospital that Children's Hospital, Children's National, they were the one that resected my son's tumor. They took his tumor out. And the surgeon that did his surgery, I asked him, how many of these does he see? And he said they see less than 5 in a year.
Oh wow,
That's how rare it is.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. And like, so your son is 4 years old, right?
Correct.
So how easy, difficult is it like integrating him with other kids?
Um, it's easy because him and my son naturally is a people person. He loves being around other kids. He loves helping other kids, different things like that. Very friendly kid. He's very friendly. But when it comes down to your average everyday activities, where you see all these other kids just running around, he runs slower. And reality is he actually runs differently just because he can't feel his left side. He can't
Right.
feel his entire, like his left leg all the way down to his foot. And, there's a lot of children who ask the questions or want to say different things, including adults. There have been a lot of adults that laugh and they're just like, why does he run like that? Without them having the knowledge or anything like that, where it's just like, well, he deals with something different. He deals with some medical things that cause him to run differently just because of balance purposes. People will see the braces on his leg and immediately kind of freak out because it's just something they're not used to seeing. And they're just like, whoa, what is that? And it's just like, they're his AFOs. But as a parent, I've been trying to teach my son that people are going to have questions. There's going to be people who may look at you differently. Some people may laugh. But as long as you know what you're dealing with and you can explain it to them, then that's the good part.
Right.
There's some people that just don't know. And it's funny because I've had a couple people, they're just like, what are those on his feet? And my son, if he's there, he'll respond. They're just my AFOs because that's the abbreviation pretty much for it. And
Right.
for him, it's no big deal. He understands this is just his life. For him, this is his normal. And, it's one of those things normal for him or another child that deals with any form of disability, whether it's a mental disability or physical disability, that's their normal, you know? And it does, however, create, you know, an environment for them that a lot of other people who that's not their normal, it to them, to society, it's weird. To society, it's different. They're not a normal person, and it's just like they're still human, you know, and society doesn't look at these people or these children the same. Finding resources for all these things is more difficult. You find that parents, a lot of times, they get tired. I've seen different parents, who just, you can just see how tired they are on their face
Yeah.
going through these things. And when you talk to them, they're losing houses, they're losing, a roof over their head. They're getting, they're tired of trying to work with their children. They're losing jobs because they have to take their children to doctor's appointments or go pick their child up from school. Some children don't qualify for home health care nurses. And there's also a lot of public schools that if parents don't know what type of assistance their child needs, they've got different plans. They've got IEPs, they've got 504 plans. They've got these different plans in place that can benefit children. But there have been a lot of cases where the children aren't getting the assistance that they need in the schools. And then the parents are fighting
Right.
to get their child the appropriate care in a school setting, especially in public schools and stuff. But they're understaffed. They don't have the knowledge behind how to deal with these individual children because this child may deal with a mental disability that is completely different from this child over here who's dealing with more of a physical disability. But they a lot of times group them together and treat them the same.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing.
And I know a lot of people that don't really go through it, they just look at it, oh, that's the same thing. So like they say the word disability, they just look at it as one big.
One thing, yeah.
So I know what you mean. And then you go back to when we was in high school, you remember.
Uh-huh.
It's like you see it, but you don't really understand what that person is going through for real.
Yeah.
Like on the outside looking in, like some people may think it's funny, some people may not know, some people may talk about, but at the end of the day, the way I see, like you said, that's his normal. He's gonna grow up like not thinking twice about that type of stuff. Like
Hmm.
when he goes around people and they're looking at him, he's not gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Right. That's a tough thing to do because you still have, you try to treat your child just as they are, as they're human,
Right.
while still trying to prepare them for the world. And parenting doesn't come with a handbook.
Exactly.
So when you have, your average children who don't have these extra health issues going on, if that's already hard enough, okay? So then to add on top of that, your child having any of these disabilities, it's like those are the times you're like, man, I really do wish I had a handbook to
Right.
help me through this. Because even you can have two children both with bipolar, but they're still two completely different children. You still have to treat them completely differently than each other because they're not going to take the same medications. They're not going to react to things the same way. They're not going to view things the same way. So just because they both deal with bipolar disorder doesn't mean that you can still treat them both the exact same.
Exactly.
Everyone's different.
Right. Right. We're back. So back to what you were saying about treating each individual disability how accordingly. So
Right.
like my mom, she works with special needs kids on the school bus. And like she comes home and she tells me stories about stuff that happened. And I'm listening and I'm like, them kids is wild. But like it's not the story she's telling me is not like The stories you would hear, you would think disabled. It's like regular kid stories. Like they badass kids regardless.
Kids are kids at the end of the day.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of people look at special needs kids and they look at it with like a I don't know how to explain it. Like they definitely get looked at different from a kid that doesn't have a disability. So
Yeah.
like how does that make you feel as a parent that you have to also constantly educate people? You have to constantly tell people this, that, and the third. How does that I know I guess tiring, but how do you get through?
It's tiring, it's frustrating, but at the same time, it's something that is rewarding. Once you get past those initial feelings of, oh, here I go, gotta explain this to somebody else again. I shouldn't have to explain this, like
Right.
this, that, and like you, once you get past those initial feelings, you stop and remind yourself, I've just hopefully helped one more person understand this world, this lifestyle that I'm in reality that we're all in a
Right.
little bit better, which hopefully they'll take that knowledge with them and start looking at people differently, like and at handling things differently. And you also go through the feeling as a parent where you get that one question in your head at some point of your life when you've had a kid who's dealing with a disability. You ask yourself the question, whether it's when you first had your child or later down the line, why my child? Why is it that my child has to deal with this? Why is it that my child has to go through this? And because you love your child, that's a whole different feeling. It's a whole different type of love that, you hear people say it, but once you've experienced it, that's really when you understand it. You
Right.
really at that point understand that feeling of love and how different it is, how much stronger it is. And so, even more as a parent, you wonder if you've done something wrong. Did you do something to create this? Like, is there something more that you can do? Are you doing enough for your child? Like, you beat yourself up a lot. And a big thing that I have been working on trying to do is creating a space for mainly for parents who have children with disabilities where those parents can just come and just release it, because it's good to have people who understand that type of experience. And even still, all of those experiences are different. Sometimes it's just support that you need to hear and know it's going to be okay. Because when you hear it from somebody who doesn't deal with these things on a daily, it's just like, yeah, you're just saying that, but you don't really know what I'm going through. You don't know how often I cry. You don't know how often I get frustrated. You don't know how often I get upset. You don't know how often I beat myself up.
Right.
Um, but to hear it from another person who's experiencing the same things or similar situations, it comes across and it feels different. And I think more groups should be created for that. And then, of course, you've got your groups where you can intermingle, where parents who just have children, like they can learn more about other children so then they can still at the same time educate their children. Because at the end of the day, all of our children are going to end up being around each other, interacting with each other. And if everybody can understand that, there's balance there, there's a respect factor there, and teach their children everybody's different. You can have brown hair, she can have black hair. She can have blue eyes, she can have brown eyes. She can be in a wheelchair, you can run on your feet. Like everybody's different, but we're all human.
Right. So we gotta get people to realize that shit too. So I have a
Yeah.
question. Do you
Mhm.
ever plan on putting your son in public school?
No. um, it's been a thought in my head a lot. I actually have been, because he can't go to daycare due to his different things that he needs done medically. I have been homeschooling him. And right now I want to continue that. I think my biggest thing, it's not like I can really work anyways with all that he's got going on.
Right.
But for him, he would need a 504 plan, which he doesn't have any mental types of disabilities, but because he's got a lot of different physical limitations, as a mother, I'm looking at the aspect of, all right, he's got to be cathetered every 2 hours. That cuts into education time at school, which you would then have to have a nurse helping. I've taught my son how to catheter himself. My son at 4 years old, he can fully catheter himself. Which, let me tell you, was a huge proud mommy moment. Okay. Because a lot of people don't understand. I'm like, it took a lot of commitment, a lot of fussing back and forth because my child has a very, very, very strong dominant personality. So there was definitely a battle there. It took a lot of tears from both of us, took a lot of tantrums from both of us.
I
Okay.
believe it.
We're both having tantrums. For him to make it to this point. And so because of that, but he's also got multiple doctor's appointments. I'm just like, that's constantly pulling him out of school and everything. I'm just like, if I can get things to settle more,
Right.
then that's when I'll be like, all right, now you can go ahead and integrate into this. But the good thing is homeschooling, there's a lot of programs for it. And then they also have a lot of social activities that you can put your children in that are homeschooled for them to still receive that social interaction.
Okay. I ain't never know. I never see. I don't know nothing about homeschool. All I know is public school, and public school ain't the best of places. It's like
Yeah,
public school is harsh, so you already know how it is.
yeah.
We went to a crazy high school as well.
Gotta have thick skin.
Yeah. So putting your child in a situation like that, it could go either way. It could be detrimental, and it could also be like a good thing as well. But kids are evil. Like not that they're evil, but they don't know. Like they're just
They
harsh.
don't know any better when they're not taught. They don't know any better.
Right. So
And it's sad because there's a lot of parents that don't have that choice to homeschool their children. They have no choice but to put them in school, and the more parents that can educate, not only that can be educated themselves, but also educate their children, can make it an easier place for children who have disabilities to be in. It's not to say that that's got to be your best friend. Your best friend's going to be whoever your best friend is, but to at least have that knowledge so that we can cut out, a lot of the bullying or the feeling of, to an extent, segregation that you see happen in public schools. You've got children who've got the disabilities, and then you got all the rest of the kids over here doing their
right.
thing.
That's exactly how it is too.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I remember you used to be a bully in high school back in
I
the
was
day.
not. Oh my,
It's cool. Like I remember she bullied me, everybody.
I did not.
She stabbed me with a pencil one time. But it's
You were
okay.
bothering me and
See,
would not stop bothering me.
see, now she's trying to make up excuses to why her violence was justified.
You know what? But you even said you deserved it.
I don't remember saying that.
Of course you don't.
I don't remember. All I know, I was trying to ask her for help with the work, and she went ballistic.
No, you didn't.
She had
Oh
a
my
partner. She
goodness.
had a partner in crime too, y'all. They used to bully me together. They used to have their own language, and they used to talk about. They used to make the look. See, she laughing. She know. She remember.
I'm laughing because this needs to be on one of your other stories. This is not. Tell these people that craziness.
This should be on one of my. Yeah, all right, I got it. The man and the bullies. But once again, we are not the man is not confirmed to be me or not. I don't know who. It's just a man.
Oh man.
It's just a man. So talking about bullying, how do you teach your son to deal with bullying if he encounters it?
That's the thing where, all parents are different. You see, I tell my son, if somebody hits you, you hit them back, but make sure that you tell the truth. So if you were bothering them first, make sure that after you hit them back, then you tell the whole story. You
Right.
tell what you did, you tell what they did. Don't leave anything out because we can't have that. But I've also told him, you don't hit people first. Like, if you really do not have to, like, that's not something that I want him doing. I don't want him to be a bully. Um, but if it's a verbal thing, then it's one of those things, ignore it.
I'm gonna just say if he does become a bully, it's because you was a bully.
Oh, no, oh my goodness, I was not a bully. Why is it, you're the only person that has ever said that I'm a bully of all people?
I'm the only one. I don't believe that.
Only one.
The rest of us might be missing. I might have been made it out. You
Oh,
you got rid of everybody else, huh?
wow. Oh, my nerve.
That's okay. Pretty faces can do crazy things. Just because it's a pretty face, people don't
Whatever.
capable of certain things. But I know, I know, I see the light.
Like, I'm a very nice person. But yeah, try to tell them, you don't bully other people. You be nice to people. If it's verbal, ignore it. If somebody puts their hands on you, well, hit them back. Don't go overboard. But make sure that you say something, you know.
And then we're in the age with guns and shit are very out there. So your son is 4. By
Yeah.
the time he turns 14, the world's gonna be much different than it is now.
Different. Yeah. Yeah. And, I've seen a lot of parents actually teaching their kids already at young ages, under the age of 8 years old, you know, under the age of 8 years old, how to use a gun. And I'm just like, "Ooh, I don't really like the way that the world is going right now."
I mean, but see, the fact that that's happening now, you got to teach your son how to do it because now he that other kid got an advantage. Like if that other kid wanted to be a criminal, like you think about it, he 8 years old now. That kid got a lot of life. So that one kid that was trained how to use a gun decides, yeah, I'm gonna fuck somebody up. Now you gotta
Yeah, see, and this is the thing.
you
This is
gotta
where,
even
parenting doesn't come with a handbook and you just
yeah,
try to do the best you can.
you got even a playing field
I'm not
now.
prepared for that for my son. That's just like a lot of people have disagreed with how I've chosen to handle things with my child. One thing that I do with my son, I tell him, we talk about a lot of things. I'd rather him learn from me than learn from a random person out here who could potentially give them the wrong advice, you know. Um, Even about when it comes down to body parts. And, I've actually had some people, they're just like, you shouldn't teach him the real names. Why don't you say like a nickname? Like I was like, well, that's the name for it. He needs to know the
Right.
real
We
name,
ain't
but you need
just
to also know, don't sexualize it. It's not, this is not, we don't go around touching, we don't go around, just saying it or talking to people about it or asking people about it. But I do feel it is important. And he asked me, he's like, Mommy, where do girls pee from? They don't have like, he was like me, and I'm just like, no,
that's
they
funny
don't,
as shit.
you know. So we've had that conversation. Um, just as much as we've had the conversation, because sometimes, he's seen now that um his cousins, they have their mom and dad, they live together, but he knows that me and his father, we don't live together. And so he's seen some of his friends who their parents don't live together, but his friends see and get to be around both of their parents. And so, given how everything is, I had to sit him down because he's got questions. And even though he's 4, I want to be honest with him. I'm like, some people, they don't have a mommy and daddy. Some people have two daddies. Some people have two mommies. Some people have a mommy and a daddy. But that's okay. Everybody's different and everybody's situation is going to be different. So I think having these types of different conversations with him also helped to set him up and get him to understand naturally everybody's different, no matter what the situation is.
Yeah.
You have a lot of hard conversations with your kids and understand that how you raise your child isn't necessarily how somebody else is going to raise their kid.
Exactly.
And I I'm just not ready to teach my kid about guns.
It's gonna
Okay.
get
He's learned about strangers.
well, you teach them the bow and arrow then.
Oh, I have every intention on that. Definitely.
You need to, you gotta level the playing field. You got to. Cause you know
Yeah.
his generation, they probably gonna have it the roughest. The way I look at it, it could go either way. Either they're gonna have it the easiest because technology has now made everything easy for them, or they're gonna have it the roughest because technology is doing too much.
Too much. Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna be one of the two.
Well, I'm just hoping that
Just
when it's
imagine.
all said and done, I've taught him enough and I've taught him the right things to help him because, I'm just like, I grew up with floppy disk. That was a thing.
Yeah, it's
Now it's a
crazy.
thing of the past.
Bruh, you know what's crazy? Like, I be talking to these young niggas at my job, and they be 20, 21, and they don't know what the fuck I'm be talking. I'm like, nigga, you was alive. You was here.
Right.
Why
They
don't you
was
know?
babies, okay?
Yeah, he said, nigga, I was two.
Right.
I was
I
like,
didn't know what anything was.
this shit is crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like you try to do the best that you can, but times are changing so fast.
this
And
shit,
it's just like, I've never lived this before. What is this?
see, we adapted. We made it through the no cell phone, everybody outside days to everybody had a
Hmm.
cell phone to MySpace. We went through we was the first social media. Our generation dealt with social media first.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Real shit. Like we could say that.
Yeah. We also went from wired internet to
To
completely
wireless.
wireless
We was the
internet.
generation that went from buttons to touch screen. Like
Right.
we saw the whole shit.
Shoot, pagers were actually still a kind of a thing when we were around.
Man, I'm telling you. So just imagine how fast it's gonna pick up.
With all this new technology.
We see on the subject of technology, do you think that they may be able to fix certain disabilities maybe while the baby is still in the womb?
Yes.
I've heard of things to
Yeah.
that nature. I don't know if they're being in use right now, but I've heard of the idea.
Yeah. Honestly, the way that technology is advancing, honestly, I think they will. Just as much as there's so much that they can do even now. Like now, what they can do for a person or a child versus what they could do for a person or a child literally like 10 years ago is insane. From different types of skin grafting to, taking nerves from one area and implanting them into another area to make things work and move is just like, wow. Like
Crazy.
technology for seeing people who are like amputees and how they've actually got. And it's funny because I'm just like, I remember watching the movie Inspector Gadget. And he's got this whole thing. That's a real thing now. That's like, and granted, obviously it was a real thing then, but
No, it's
like you
called that
see
shit.
it now. It's really out here in the world and you're seeing it, and it's just like, wow.
It, it's amazing. Electric cars,
Right.
all of this shit. Like, it's,
Hovercrafts. I was watching a video where they were testing out, you know, this flying suit. Like it was Iron Man stuff.
I
Okay.
I seen that shit, dog.
I was
We about
like,
to be in that day and
what
age of the
fun.
Jetsons.
Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah,
Exactly.
I honestly think in the future there's gonna be a serious divide. So you ever know if you heard the conspiracy of the Flintstones and the Jetsons happening at the same exact time period? Have you heard about that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could be a possibility too. Where if you broke, if you don't got shit, you with the Flintstones. If you rich, you with the
Mm-hmm.
sky with the Jetsons. Like the
Yep.
poor people and the rich people don't see each other at all at that
At
point.
all. They're gonna be in two completely different areas.
Shit.
That or like iRobot, where you had people who were like, I'm with all the technology. I want the IA. I want these things. And then
Yeah.
you had some people where it's just like, nah, I don't want none of that. I
I'm
don't
with
want to
them
deal
people.
with it.
I'm with them people because of the movie I Robot. And
See?
you saw what happened at the end.
Yeah.
Robots got on their ass.
And it was just like, oh nah, look, we're created to do this. You're still learning.
Like I work at the ice cream factory. I don't make I personally don't make ice cream. The robot is making the ice cream. I'm watching the robot, making sure the robot don't fuck up. Oh shit.
So if the robot messes up, like, does he get fired?
No, he gets reset. I hit a button.
Okay.
Shit, I hit a button. Go on the screen to hit this button, reset, go again.
Look, that's not fair because if you go to a road job and you're a human
You
and
can't
you
get
keep
reset.
messing up, you get fired. You can't get reset.
They're
The
like, no,
fine,
we
look, reset. Start again. It's fine.
can't.
Why we gotta get fired?
Yeah, because the robot is working for free. The robot don't take
No,
bad
not
feedback.
really. Because guess
No,
what? You gotta put money into fixing
but
those
check it.
things, maintaining them.
The robot don't call out. The robot don't get sick.
This is true.
The robot don't have no bathroom break.
But you know what? Look, the amount of money that they put out to have that robot made to begin with is coming out of all of that. You don't deserve a bathroom break or to call out. You still got back pay.
Yeah, they spent a lot. They spent a couple million on the robots at my job. So
Yeah, see?
they told us the number, but I ain't gonna disclose it here because they
Yeah.
be on their shit. They be done fired me for doing this shit.
Said, look, you didn't say it too much, sir.
No, but they so it's up there. It's over 10 million for
I can
sure.
believe it. I can believe it. They're not cheap, all those different parts, the different chips and work that it really takes to go in.
Yeah,
Technology, life is
I was just gonna be
changing.
crazy because I work with a robot. Like that's my coworker.
Sounds like a cool dude.
No, it's a big ass. The robots don't move either. They stay there. So it's a conveyor belt. It takes the shit from robot to robot.
Guess what? You can just talk to him, tell him all your problems, and never have to worry about any back talk.
The machine might fuck up. You might have to reset it.
Reset.
Like, hold the fuck up. I'm not programmed to listen to bullshit.
I don't want to hear none of this today. Let me mess up everything. Reset me.
So on the subject of disabilities again. So let's take it and let's move forward into the future more. Let's say now your son is an adult. How like do you think the job opportunities or shit stuff like that for him will be?
Well, hopefully, depending on what the world is looking like, you know,
Hopefully it's a lot better than it is now.
right. Then hopefully, there'll be things that are open. One thing that I don't do, I don't stop him from trying different things. I don't stop him from learning. I encourage a lot of learning. I encourage a lot of reading. Um, and I let him do. He wanted to try basketball. I put him in basketball. And he was in basketball with a bunch of other kids, who didn't have disabilities. I chose not to tell the coach because I'm like, I want my child to push. I want people to treat my child like they treat any other kid.
Right.
you know, and I'm still there so that if I see that my child needs extra assistance or his leg is bothering him or he's not feeling well, I can still help, you know, but I don't want to ever stop him or stifle him from doing whatever it is that he wants to do. I want him to try different things. I want him to get out there so that when he gets older and becomes an adult, you know, whatever it is that you want to do, you know that you can do it because that's all you've done your entire life. Don't let what you deal with stop you. Like your disability is not you, it's just what you deal with. And that's it. So if you learn how to deal with it, you make it work for you. If you know that your leg, you can't feel your foot and go into MMA fighting, you know, you can't feel your foot, go into soccer, you know, because you can kick things extremely hard at that rate
Break your
and never
motherfucking
feel it.
foot. You
Now,
tripping.
granted, if you break something,
We been a
you
broke your
can't feel
foot,
it.
son.
So
Do
there's
some cooking.
downsides, you know,
You are crazy.
but
Don't
he's
set your son up like that.
look, it's funny because he wants to get into Muay Thai now, Muay Thai fighting, Muay
Oh,
Thai,
yeah.
Muay Thai, however you pronounce it.
Nah, by all means, let him do that shit, but don't tell
And
him
that's
to
what I
kick
was
some
saying.
shit. We gonna break his fucking leg.
And he's extremely flexible. Like I let him try all kinds of things. So hopefully, if things go appropriately, I want him to have his own business. You know, I want to teach him different skills that will be beneficial no matter what's going on in life. You know, get into a trade, get into a skill, really learn it, love it, breathe it, live it. You know,
The one
nobody can
trade I
take away
tell
from
all the
you.
young people to get into is goddamn robotics.
It's always there. You
That's
know, they're
it's
like
like,
it's not going to go out. Like technology is consistently evolving from back when our parents were little. Like technology is constantly evolving.
did you know
Great
that
thing to get in.
you could be a licensed drone pilot, like, and fly drones for a living and make really good money?
I feel like you can do anything out here at this rate for a living. I
Like,
literally was reading an article and people get paid to poop in a bag.
come on, dog. The fuck is that?
Okay. Like, and they're getting paid good money for it.
What the
They
fuck is
send
that?
in weekly samples and
Shit,
they get paid.
I will do that. Where do you find
There are there are different companies. They've got like
the
I read about
collecting
like
shit?
4 or 5 different companies, and some of them are only in specific states.
Why are they
And then of
collecting
course you've
shit?
got different like different circumstances that you have to fit into to be qualified. But yeah, and I'm just like,
Why are we
at this
collecting
rate,
shit?
everything pays.
Why are we collecting feces?
I have no idea. And I was actually a little bit disturbed. I was intrigued and disturbed at the same time. And I was like, I
Is our
don't want to
tax
know
dollars
what this
paying
is
for this
for.
weird shit? I'm
Yeah,
not.
I feel like it's with all these research companies.
Nah, see, that's what I'm saying. Our tax dollars go to too much stupid. Like, what the fuck is? Now I'm about to look into it. I don't want my tax. I'm about to
You
stop
got
paying.
literally look.
Yeah, this shit is crazy. I wish I could just stop paying that shit and tell them like I don't like what y'all doing with this
Like,
money.
look, I don't like what you're doing with my tax money. So switch it or I'm not paying anything.
Like real shit. Like, what the fuck are you collecting shit for? There any good reason for this?
Yeah. So I mean, and then there I will say that I found there are certain laws that um when you're an adult and you're working, like they cannot discriminate against you.
Right.
You can't like if you've got these different things and you have, you know, of course all your proper documentation, and you go to a job, like they can't just fire you because you can't do what your average everyday person out here can just do. You know, they understand, like they have to understand that you've got these different things. Same thing though, with schools now. It's one of those things like when you have a 504 plan in place or an IEP in place, it is actually the school's responsibility to ensure that that child is receiving the appropriate care.
Really.
And if they are not, yes, like that can actually be a lawsuit.
Well, true shit. But like I told you, my mom,
Um,
she worked with the kids on the bus, but they take all the kids to one school in Virginia. Like they take them from PG County all
mhm.
the way to Virginia because they say that that's the only school that got the programs that they need for them certain kids, some shit like that.
And sometimes that's the case. There's a lot of different schools out here. You've actually got some schools that are actual medical schools. So they specialize pretty much in, they have, the only students they have there are students that have different disabilities, whether it's mental disabilities, physical disabilities, that is just strictly for those students. That's it. You've got all kinds of different, like there's different schools out here. It's shocking to find out how many, because I
It
never knew that.
is.
It was something that I recently found out, um, as I've been looking into what it was that I was going to do, with my son this year, as far as for school. So as I've looked into these different things, I have found so much information, but it takes a lot of research. And there's a lot of parents that don't have that type of time because they're working, taking care of their kids. And then by the time it's all said and done, you try to lay your head down for a second at night to go to sleep and you've got to get right back up again.
That's just crazy. But I'm about to wrap the show up. So I appreciate you for coming on and talking about this issue. So is there anything else you want to conclude or add on or give to people?
Only thing that I would say is, if you find yourself struggling as a parent going through these things, or you don't know how to talk to your own child about these things, reach out to other people. That's something that is okay. And dealing with these things as a parent, it's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to be upset. You're going to feel these emotions, but talk to somebody about it. Find a support group. My DMs are always open. Like I said, I'm on Instagram at DIYTYE, and we can have a conversation. I'm working on creating a platform for these types of things specifically. Hopefully, that'll be up and running soon. Other than that, your kid loves you for it.
Hell
They'll
yeah.
forgive you for what you've messed up on. It's okay. That's what they do.
Yeah, we all fuck up.
Yeah,
We all
yeah,
fuck up. We all learning. So that's why not grow together. Yep,
exactly. Exactly.
yep. So I appreciate you for coming on. And
Thank you for having me.
I'm probably gonna have you on here again for we're gonna talk about bullying specifically because I don't like that you try to say you're not a bully. Well, you're probably not anymore, but she was, and I promise y'all, she was a bully, or and an actual bully. Like she took my lunch money a couple times.
Really?
Like it was one of them TV situations.
I
So
didn't need to take your lunch money. I got free lunch.
yeah, see, she didn't even need that shit. She just crazy. All right, man. Thank you. It's been real. I'm about to
Thank
actually
you.
text you because I have something to ask you, but yeah,
All right.
we're done with this shit.